Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I'm your host Louis Sung, and today we're actually going to be doing a bit of a quick hitter type of thing. So we've got several different discussions, and we're going to briefly go into a whole bunch of them. There's going to be ranging from the fact that the Miami Dolphins are going to be going to Germany for the first time this upcoming season, and they're going to be facing against the Kansas City Chiefs. So the whole Arrowhead Stadium thing, yeah, that's not going to happen, and what the fallout of all that was. We're also going to be talking about the fact that the Miami Dolphins signed another tight end to the roster, Tyler Kroft. We'll get into a little bit about who he is, what he does, how he contributes to this roster, and we'll also talk about some of the chatter going around the interwebs as we often do. But before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that this show is brought to you as always by You Brake Wheel Fix. U-Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? U-Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as U-Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, U-Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, U-Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at ubrakewheelfix.com. They are really active on all social media platforms at ubrakewheelfix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to ubrakewheelfix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, one of each league, it's up to you to decide how to play it. All you have to do is choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat, whether that's actually individual stats or the entire fantasy point projections type deal. They give you free squares over there at PrizePicks, special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up. So use the promo code 5, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, F-I-V-E. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 for you to play with, and get started winning today. Alright folks, so let's go ahead and get into this. Now, the Miami Dolphins schedule has not been officially released as of yet. However, there are several leaks going on, as it often does. So, one of the biggest things that we found out was that the Miami Dolphins are actually going to be going to Germany for the first time in the regular season. Now, when I said earlier that this is the first time they're ever going to Germany, I have to go ahead and correct myself in a way. Because this is not the first time they've gone to Germany, period. As a matter of fact, in 1992, they beat the Denver Broncos in Germany in an exhibition match 31-27. Now, again, that doesn't really count. It was an exhibition match, basically on par with a preseason game, so it doesn't really count for much. But just looking back at the Miami Dolphins' history in international games, you can kind of see that the Miami Dolphins have had a lot of success overseas anyway. As of 1988, which is when they first started, again, it was an exhibition match. They won 27-21 versus the San Francisco 49ers in London, so that was the first time ever they went to London to play football. They won that game. Then they won the next game against the Los Angeles Raiders in Japan in 1991, 19-17. Of course, the Broncos game that I mentioned in Germany. The next time they played overseas was against the Broncos again in Mexico City in 1997 in another exhibition match. They won that game 38-19. Now, when they officially went to London for the first time in the regular season in 2007, things went downhill really quick. They lost 13-10 versus the New York Giants in the regular season. It was wet, it was muddy, it was gross, and by the way, it was an Eli Manning versus Cleo Lemon game. There's a name for you guys to remember. Remember Cleo Lemon? I remember Cleo Lemon. The fact that I remember him just proves how infamous he is in Dolphins history. Now, mind you, just to be clear, it's not like the Giants had a fantastic game. Based on the stats that I'm looking at here, actually, Cleo Lemon actually had a better game than Eli Manning did. He went 17 for 30, 149 yards and a touchdown. He got sacked 3 times for 30 yards. But then Eli Manning's numbers, he completed 8 passes out of 22 attempts and threw for 59 yards, and he got sacked once to lose 10 yards. But as for running the football, Brandon Jacobs, 23 carries, 131 yards. So it was pretty obvious who was the better team. And I'm just looking at some of these names here. Justin Peele, Marty Booker, Derek Hagan, Ted Ginn Jr. We got some defensive guys that I remember. Channing Crowder, Will Allen, Keith Traylor, Joey Porter. Jason Taylor was on that team. And oh, look at that. Kicker Jay Feely. How about that? So not a really good start for the Miami Dolphins regular season international games. But things got better for them after that. Then they went against the Buffalo Bills in Toronto in 2008, the very next season. They won that game 16-3. And that was a Chad Pennington game, so we know that we had a good quarterback in that game. Buffalo had J.P. Lossman. Man, you look back on the quarterbacks that the Bills have had before Josh Allen, it's not a pretty picture for them. But as we all know, that's the Wildcat year. That's the year that everybody was having a whole lot of fun watching the Dolphins just do some really weird stuff, just completely messing with the minds of their opponents. Granted, it was a short-lived ride, but you know what? Just because it was short-lived doesn't mean we didn't have fun watching it anyway. Other teams tried to use it. We tried to use it for a while. It didn't work out ever again, but hey, you know what? It was fun while it lasted. Sadly, ever since that game, things have not gone well for the Miami Dolphins. They did win against the Oakland Raiders in 2014, which is great. Ryan Tannehill had a pretty good game, 23 for 31, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that was when Derek Carr was first starting to establish himself. Going back to London, the Miami Dolphins again, there are a lot of Dolphins fans up there. But unfortunately for them, things took a sour turn right after that. They lost to the New York Jets the next year in 2015 in London. They lost 27-14. Then in 2017, they went back to London again. They lost 20-0 versus the New Orleans Saints. And then they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2021, 23-20. So it was a close game, but it didn't work out for them. So now the Miami Dolphins are going to Germany in 2023. They didn't do anything overseas in 2022. But now the Miami Dolphins are basically going to be getting an extra home game out of all this. So we were going to be getting it so that they were going to go to Arrowhead, or at least that was the assumption, versus the Kansas City Chiefs. That's why Tyreek Hill was trash talking about how he was going to throw up the peace sign back at the Arrowhead Stadium, and basically he was just going to mess with the Kansas City Chiefs, his old team, and just ruin their whole day by using his speed that was benefiting them for so long and just wrecking their whole game. But that's not going to happen now because they're going to Germany to play the Kansas City Chiefs. And if nothing else, it would be a lot of fun to see the Dolphins snap their international game losing streak. But I think part of the reason why they want the Chiefs to do this is because they think that the Chiefs can really set up and establish themselves in another international market. Because why wouldn't you want to market overseas literally your best team, your Super Bowl reigning champions, with possibly the greatest quarterback who may ever play the game when all is said and done? Because he's doing things that we've never seen any quarterback do. So you get Germany to be fans of Patrick Mahomes, and you've got yourself a market and a lot of money coming in for a good long time. But wouldn't it be something if the Miami Dolphins could somehow manage to snap their losing streak, beat Kansas City in Germany? It's going to be a lot easier in some ways, I think, because since they were going to play in Arrowhead, Kansas City Chiefs fans go ballistic, okay? It was going to be loud if they went to Arrowhead, and it was not going to be easy for the Dolphins to have communication. 2022 showed that the Miami Dolphins struggle getting plays in as it is, even when it's quiet. So in a stadium like that, they were going to have issues all the way through. Now, in this new stadium, it's very possible that they will actually have a more level playing field. So even though it will technically go down as a home game for the Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins may not have to be treating it like it's going to be a home game for the Kansas City Chiefs. They may get to be able to actually function on a neutral playing field for once. And can you imagine if after all this time, Tua manages to outduel Patrick Mahomes in Germany? Could you imagine how upset the NFL would be if somehow the Dolphins managed to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and then Germany decides they're Dolphins fans instead of Kansas City Chiefs fans? Oh, I can just imagine how upset they would be. They're probably setting it up like, you guys were supposed to beat the Dolphins. You weren't supposed to lose to them. That was the whole point of us sending you over there. And they'd be like, oh, what do you want from us? We lost. Like, but now we don't make any Kansas City Chief money by doing that. Now we have to sell Dolphins merchandise. And I can just imagine already Mike Greenberg will come up with some excuse. Let's see what's some good weather stuff that happens in Germany. Germany apparently has some really good weather a lot of the time. Maybe some rain every once in a while, but other than that, let's see. Mike Greenberg will talk about how, it was just like 2 temperatures below what the Kansas City Chiefs would have been used to, or maybe it was just a slightly little bit too hot. Maybe the fact that maybe it's a summer game. Maybe it was just a little bit too hot for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they couldn't keep up with the warm climate Miami Dolphins. I can't imagine how many times we're going to keep playing this game. The level of excuses that people will have to make sure that the Miami Dolphins, or any Miami team for that matter, don't get credit, the leaps and bounds they go to is unfathomable. I know that my good friend Ron Caniff, thank you, by the way, to him for taking over for me yesterday, and he talked about how we shouldn't care what the national media has to say, especially this year. Now more than ever, we shouldn't give a flying you-know-what about what the national media has to say about the Miami Dolphins. But at the same time, you just kind of see how transparent it is and how dumb, what kind of excuses that they're making, not just for the Dolphins, for Miami. Miami can never be good. Miami has to be always having something to bail them out. Literally, Mike Greenberg went on national television and said that the reason the New York Knicks were losing to the Heat all this time so far, as of this recording, maybe they won last night, I don't know yet because the game is currently ongoing as I'm recording this. The reason that they've been losing is because the humidity and the heat is just too much. Dude, they play indoors. They spend all their time in the air conditioning. I don't know what you're talking about. So that is not even close to an excuse. But they'll say it anyway because they really, really, really want to make sure that the Miami Dolphins, nor the Miami Heat, or the Florida Panthers, whoever you want to throw out there, nobody gets any credit in Florida. They don't want it. It's not the market that they're trying to sell to. And so there you have it. So going to Germany, playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, it's going to be a very interesting way of looking at it. I can't wait to see how this all turns out in a neutral playing field. Maybe the Dolphins finally snap their international losing streak. That would be fantastic if they could do it against the reigning Super Bowl champions. All right, let's go ahead and switch gears here real quick. Let's talk about Tyler Kroft being signed to the Miami Dolphins. So for anybody who doesn't know who he is, because I didn't know who he was, honestly, until the Dolphins went ahead and signed him. So Tyler Kroft was a former third-round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals back in 2015. And right off the bat, you can obviously tell just by his numbers that catching the football is not exactly something that he does very much. He had 4 years in Cincinnati, 2 years in Buffalo, 1 year with the Jets, and then he had 1 year with San Francisco in 2022 backing up George Kittle. And all the while, you just see how many catches he actually made. The most prolific year he ever had was in 2017 with Andy Dalton throwing him the football. He caught 42 passes for 404 yards and 7 touchdowns, which granted, that's fantastic. But the rest of his stats, he's had 11 catches, 10 catches, the 42 catch season, 4 catches, 6 catches, 12 catches, 16 catches, and 4 catches. Now, granted, he hasn't played all 16 games or now all 17 games ever since 2017, which is when he had his really big blowout season. But nevertheless, the thing that makes Tyler Kroft a fit for this offense, so to speak anyway, is that once again, the thing that he does best is that he is a good blocker. He's a good run blocker. He has the ability to be a solid contributor in the run game, which just puts him right back in that same category as Durham Smythe, Eric Saubert. So one must wonder why the Miami Dolphins keep adding more and more blocking tight ends. Are they trying to find somebody to replace Durham Smythe? Are they regretting the fact that they extended him? I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they just really want more blocking tight ends, really. So I don't understand the logic. Maybe it's just a simple matter of that they're trying to figure out who they want in the rotation. They're trying to figure out if they can maybe find a cheaper option somewhere, or maybe they just really, really want some more camp bodies, give them a chance to show themselves off, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Durham Smythe, Eric Saubert, and either Elijah Higgins or Tanner Connor, because you need to have a tight end who can actually do both things for you. So signing Tyler Kroft to a 1-year deal, this doesn't really move the needle at all for me. I'm still waiting for the signing of Cameron Fleming, so I knew we had to get some offensive line talk in there somewhere. So I still think the Cameron Fleming thing is going to happen eventually. The Miami Dolphins had like $3 million in cap space, so this Tyler Kroft signing must be like a $1 million veteran minimum kind of deal in order to even get him on board. But again, He's another candidate for a good blocking tight end. We'll add him to the list. We'll add him to the ever-growing pile of one-note tight ends that the Miami Dolphins seem to like collecting nowadays. I understand that Mike McDaniel's offense requires good blocking. Maybe this is their plan. Maybe this is the way that they're going to actually fix the offensive line. By not fixing the offensive line, they'll just fix the tight end position and make it so that whoever happens to be on there is actually going to be able to help the guy who's going to be sitting next to him. So if Austin Jackson is the guy at right tackle, well, don't worry. You've got either Durham Smythe or Tyler Kroft who can go ahead and just supplement the fact that you're not very good at your job. If that's the plan, that's a creative way of fixing it. I'll give you that, but it's not exactly something I would like because it's not going to be very good for versatility in the offense because you have to keep a guy out there to help at all times. All right, and one last final note before we go ahead and call it a show. I wanted to just go ahead and mention real quick some things that were said by Louis Riddick on TV the other day, talking about how the Miami Dolphins actually are the biggest threat in the AFC East. Now, this is actually a very refreshing breath of fresh air because now you have somebody who's actually coming out and saying that the Dolphins are the top team in the East. Not the Bills, not the Jets, now with Aaron Rodgers, and of course not the New England Patriots. I don't think anybody's thinking the New England Patriots are a real threat in the AFC East right now. But nevertheless, for Louis Riddick to come out here, I've always thought that Louis Riddick had a really good head on his shoulders, and a lot of people are talking about how it's a downright crime that he doesn't have a GM job somewhere in the NFL as it is. And I'm not just saying that because I agree with him. He does tend to have a lot of really good opinions, even if they're not the opinions that I would like to hear. But nevertheless, you have this guy, Louis Riddick, and he's saying that the Miami Dolphins are the biggest threat. And the thing that puts them over the top, it's not the offense, it's not anything like that. It's the fact that the Miami Dolphins went ahead and they signed Vic Fangio to be the defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio, that just goes to show you how much people respect Vic Fangio as a coach. Maybe his whole head coaching career kind of fell apart prematurely, but you know what? As a defensive coordinator, there is not a single person on this earth who would look at you and say Vic Fangio is not a good defensive coach. He's right up there with the reputation of the likes of a Rex Ryan. People remember when Rex Ryan was talking about how he would never come back to be a defensive coordinator again and he was only going to take a head coaching job. Well, you know what? Nobody's asking him to be a head coach, but you better believe that if he ever came back and said, you know what, I'd like to be a defensive coordinator again, there are probably going to be teams lining up to say, please come be our defensive coordinator. We know what you were like as a defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio is the guy who literally helps redesign the way the defenses are played in the NFL. And now he's coming here to revolutionize this defense with the kind of a loaded team that we've given him. David Long Jr. at linebacker, Jalen Ramsey at cornerback / safety / whatever it is that they're going to do with him. You give him Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. You sign Malik Reed. You give him Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer. I've gone through this list many times already. And you know what? It's still impressive. So even if the offense doesn't take a step forward, even if it just kind of like stays stagnant as far as its progression, it's still a really good offense. And you know what? If the defense takes 3 steps forward, though, because of Vic Fangio, honestly, folks, that sounds like a Super Bowl team to me. That's just my opinion. We're going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see what we talk about tomorrow. We'll see if the Miami Dolphins do something interesting. We'll probably have the whole schedule by then. So we'll have a better idea of what exactly are going to happen when with the Miami Dolphins, who they're playing, where they're playing, and it'll be very interesting to see how that all goes down. Thank you all so much for listening. If you have not already done so, make sure you go check out You Break Wheel Fix. If you're damaged wheels from bends, cracks, or curb rash, or anything along those lines, they can help you out. They can give you window tinting. They can modify your suspension. All you got to do is just give them a call at 305-748-0112 or go online to youbreakwheelfix.com to get an estimate in just minutes. You can even customize your ride to look like the ultimate Miami Dolphins fantasy. So go ahead and give them a call again at 305-748-0112. And of course, go to prizepicks.com. Use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up using that promo code. And that means they will literally give you 100 of their dollars for you to play with before you even have to touch your deposit. So go ahead, go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code 5, that's FIVE, and get started winning today. We will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Fins Nation.